So in this video on opportunity related functionality in Microsoft Dynamics 365 for sales, we're going to cover off the forecast functionality within the system. Now, this is one in a series done specifically on opportunity related features. You can see links to others in the series below. Also, you've got suggested content ideas and you need any help in Microsoft Dynamics, please see the links below. So let's dive into the system and I'll show you what I mean by the forecast capability. Now, I'm in the opportunities area at the moment, but if I navigate down the screen, I can see I've got under the performance area, I've got an area called forecast. Now, firstly, this is a sales in enterprise or premium feature rather than a sales professional, certainly at the time of recording this video. So just be aware of that. So not everybody may have access to this. But if I click on the forecast area, we can see what we mean by a forecast. Now, this is quite a simple one because this is a test system. I haven't configured it to have a hierarchy of users. So the only person's forecast that's appearing on here is mine. But in a normal sales organization, potentially with multiple salespeople, we may have groups of sellers feeding into a sort of overall forecast. But this is quite a simple variant of it, but it will show the basic principles. So this is my forecast. There's a few things to be aware of at the top. It sort of calculates the forecast data on a daily basis. So if you have changed something in the system, you want to recalculate the data, just click the recalculate data button at the top and it tells me when it's last updated. I can edit the columns as an individual user. If there's something I don't particularly like within the columns displayed here, I can remove those. And then I've got this sort of period, if you like, that this forecast relates to. Now I've set this up to be a sequence of monthly forecasts from July for 12 months, in the second one, which is for August. Now, if we look at this, I've got a series of columns. I've got a quota. That is my target for the month. And I'll show you how we upload the quota. That's quite a nice feature of the system's back end. But then that's my monthly quota. So I've got £50,000 quota. I've got a current forecast value, which is showing I'm at 60%. And that's actually a combination of the committed and won figure. So deals I've actually won and deals that I've got a forecast category value of committed in the system. So this currently out of the box is sort of feeding off that forecast category field that appears on an opportunity record. And that has a number of variants, but one is committed, which is your highest level. It's definitely going to happen this month or this period that we're forecasting. Best case is it's sort of medium probability of happening, and pipeline is, it's may happen, but it's unlikely. So I can see what's won, I can see what's committed, I can see what's best case, I can see what's pipeline, I can see the gap to the quota, and that is effectively the quota minus 1. So you can see I've got a gap of 30,000, I've won 20,000, the quota was 50,000. And then I've got something called a pipeline coverage ratio that tells me the pipeline value, the committed value in best case, divided by the target quota, and then that gives me a ratio, in this case of 1.17. So the better, the more deals I've got to cover that, the higher the ratio, the better position I'm in to meet my quota. If I want to see what makes up this pipeline, if you like, I can just click on that. Let me show that as a table to begin with. I'll show Kanban in a second. I just click on my name there, then it displays the underlying records. So actually there's 3 opportunities that fall within the forecast period, and this is obviously going to be based on estimated close date, or if it's won, the actual close date. And I can see here a view of those opportunities. Now you can see actually as I hover over it with my mouse that these are an editable grid. So actually I can update the forecast within this view if I want to. It's picking up by definition, or by default I should say, the opportunities forecast view, but I can pick up other system views If I want to, I can apply some filters. I can do some grouping on that as well. If I want to show it as a Kanban, and Microsoft does sort of make a little bit of use of Kanban in certain areas, including opportunities, but not too much. So I've just showed that as a Kanban view, and it's got my 3 deals. One's already won, one's committed, and one's pipeline. It does actually allow real drag and drop if I want to. If I want to move from pipeline to best case, I can just move that over, and that automatically changes. So it's possibly a sort of perhaps more useful rendering of the Kanban view than perhaps we've seen in other areas of the system. If I want to flick back to showing it a table, by the way, again, same sort of principle here. These tiles are effectively editable as well. If I click on this, I can go back and see it as a table. Now, the other feature we've got is the ability to drill down, and again, this can be set up at the back end, but I've set this up so the drill down is by account, so I can see the account records that make that up. So I can see that Acme is the one that's in our best case, Fourth Coffee is the one that's the committed, and Test Company 37, of course, is the one deal. So we can drill down into that. If I want to click on one of these, then it sort of sub-filters the underlying record view as well. The other little feature we've got is we do have the ability to adjust manually the forecast amount if I wish to. So if I click on that, I can enter an adjusted amount and a note, and I can reset it again later if I want to. So if I wasn't happy we quite got that forecast amount quite right, I can tweak it there. So that's a bit of a sort of tour around the front end of the system. It's quite a nice sort of rendering of your forecast data. So I think it's quite a helpful capability. If I go into the back end, just go by changing the area of the system at the bottom of the screen here from sales to app settings, if I just scroll down, if I can spot it, I've got this area called forecast configuration. Now this is the 2 forecasts we've got. We've got the one that I've got live at the moment, which I've just walked you through. It does, by default, have a sample forecast. So if you haven't set up your forecasting, there is some forecast capabilities there. It's a little bit limited. It assumes your current quota is going to be based on what you sold the previous month. So it's not ideal. You probably do want to set up your forecast in the background, configure your forecast. I'll just walk you through creating one. You can create one from scratch, but that means you've got to kind of fill in quite a lot of fields. But you do have some sort of pre-populated ones, so I can base it on the organization's reporting structure, or I can base it on the sales territory structure in the system, or I can set it as a product forecast, or I can build it all up from scratch. What I'll do is I'll quickly show how to create one based on the organization's reporting structure. So I'll just click on that. So it's like a wizard. Let me just give this a quick name, test 2. And it's a lot of this is pre-filled out. So the only thing I've got to fill out here is who's the top of the hierarchy, so it knows how high up the hierarchy to go. As I say, it's only really me using the system, so I'll just put me in there. The next thing you need to think about in terms of the forecast is what's your sort of reporting structure, your forecast periods, if you like. So what I'm going to go with is Gregorian. So I'm going to do that on and I could change that. It could be weekly, monthly, quarterly, annual basis, but I'm going to go with monthly. I actually want this to start on August the 1st. And yeah, it's picked up the start date, and the number of periods is going to be 12. So I'm going to create all 12 sales periods. So that's the 12 months for the next, 12 months for the next 12 months. And if I click add period, it's just going to generate all those. So I've now created all the sales periods, all the months I'm going to be forecasting on within this forecast configuration. If I now save that, and I'll go on to the next step. Now, say a lot of this is pre-filled out for you. So if we go on to the next one, it's already allocated some its thoughts on what the security settings should be, but you can tweak those if you want to, but I'm happy to go with what it suggested. Next thing is can go out with a layout. So these are the columns that I showed earlier at the front end, but you can see there were some it potentially has and we weren't displaying. I can display those or deselect those and don't display them. Now at the moment, as I said, the forecast was feeding off the forecast category field on an opportunity record. However, if that's not the field that we use in terms of our opportunity forecast management, we can change things around so that it feeds off a different field if we want to. I'm happy to go with Microsoft standard suggested structure, so let's move on. We go on to the next step, and it's given the ability to add a drill down. At the moment, by default, it's picked up the account drill down, which I showed you in the front end earlier, but I can add other drill downs as well. So I could add one by product or some sort of custom drill down. So let's add the product. And then lastly, I've showed with the advanced area as well, which I've got options like having multi-currency selection, which in my very simple world of one single seller I don't need to do, but may be something you want to enable. Do we want to set the Kanban as the default view, etc. So we've got a few options there. And then if we go to the next area of this wizard for configuring forecasts, I've got the ability to activate the forecast. Now, one of the things you can do just here at the bottom here, we can simply download a spreadsheet from the system. So just click on that to download a spreadsheet, downloads a spreadsheet, and within that spreadsheet, what it allows you to do is input the quota for each salesperson for each month. You upload it and it automatically assigns those quotas into the system. It's really quick, easy, and powerful tool. I'll skip that step, but that's very easy to set up. And now I'm going to activate the forecast, which it takes a second or two to do, but that forecast has now been set up and is running. So it's as simple as that to configure your forecasting. Anyway, that's sort of a tour of the front end. That's a sort of tour of the back end configuration and setup of it. I think overall, in terms of it as a feature, I think it's quite powerful. I don't think it's one of those things you can't live without. Obviously, you can do forecasting regardless of whether you use the forecast module, because the data you've got within the opportunity area is more than adequate to cover off sort of basic forecasting needs. But I think it's a good way of rendering people's forecasts and be able to sort of see and manage quite a number of forecasts at one time. It's also clever in the way that it allows you to upload quota data and tracks the forecast against quota data. So I think it's a good tool. The better you are tracking your future opportunities, the better you are at forecasting business volumes. It's rather like having a sort of a radar sort of looking out into the future. The more tuned you are and the better that radar, the quicker you're going to pick up new trends, whether things might be falling off, whether things might be growing suddenly. And that sort of information allows you to make very, very good business decisions. And not having that information makes it easy to make bad business decisions. So I think it's quite a nice tool. It's quite a nice rendering of forecast data, and certainly something I would look at using if you have the Sales Enterprise version of Dynamics. Anyway, hopefully that's helpful. As I say, it's one in the series we've done specifically on opportunity-related functionality within Dynamics. You can see others in the series below. Also, if you got any suggested content ideas or you need any help with Microsoft Dynamics, please see the links below. Anyway, thanks very much for your time today, and hopefully see you again soon.